Wait, darling.
How could you?
My name is Amber Whitfield, and 3 weeks before my wedding, I found my fiancé in bed with my sister. Yeah, my own sister. The same sister who used to braid my hair before school. The one who cried at my engagement party and said she was so proud of me. The one my parents called the golden child. You never really forget the moment your world stops spinning. For me, it was a Tuesday afternoon, one of those days where nothing seems extraordinary. I'd left work early to surprise my fiancé, Ethan, with his favorite lunch from that little Italian place he loved. I was humming the song that was supposed to play during our first dance. I still remember it. When I got to his apartment, the door wasn't even locked. That should have been my first red flag. I walked in quietly, holding the takeout bag, smiling to myself, until I heard the sound of laughter coming from the bedroom. A woman's laugh. Her laugh. I froze. My brain tried to protect me, tried to come up with any explanation other than the truth. Maybe it was the TV. Maybe his sister was visiting. Maybe anything. But when I opened the door, the world ended. Ethan and my sister Chloe were tangled in the sheets, gasping, frozen mid-motion when they saw me. The takeout bag fell from my hands, the smell of marinara filling the air like something mocking me. For a few seconds, no one moved. No one spoke. And then Chloe, my sister, had the audacity to whisper, "Amber, it's not what you think." I laughed. I actually laughed. It was this awful, broken sound that didn't even feel human. "Really?" I said. "Because it looks exactly like what I think." Ethan scrambled to put on his shirt, stammering something about a mistake and confusion and "we didn't mean to hurt you." But it didn't matter, because in that moment something inside me died and something else was born. The next few days were a blur of tears, phone calls, and betrayal. I thought my parents would be furious with Chloe. I thought they'd disown her or at least take my side. But when I showed up at their house sobbing, my mother just sighed like she was tired. "Amber, sweetheart," she said, "these things happen. You can't control who people fall in love with." I stared at her, speechless. "Mom, that's my fiancé. My wedding is in 3 weeks." Dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. "Better now than after the marriage," he muttered. And then, like a nightmare that couldn't get worse, Chloe walked in, wearing Ethan's sweatshirt. She didn't apologize. She didn't cry. She just looked at me and said, "We didn't plan this. It just happened. Happened." As if love was a car crash she tripped into. I remember feeling hollow, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. My own family was defending them. And then Mom said something I'll never forget. "Ethan and Chloe want to make things right. They've decided to move forward with the wedding. The same date, the same venue. We hope you'll be mature enough to support them." I actually laughed again, that same unhinged laugh. "You want me to support my cheating fiancé and my sister's wedding? In my venue?" Mom frowned. "It would mean a lot to the family if you could put your feelings aside." Put my feelings aside. That night, I went home, sat on the edge of my bed, and cried until my throat burned. But somewhere between the sobs, an idea began to take shape. If they wanted to use my dream wedding, my dress, my date, fine, they could have it. But they'd never forget it. I started small. I told everyone I was okay with it, that I forgave them, that I even wanted to help. And because I'd always been the quiet, dependable one, everyone believed me. "Maybe Amber's finally growing up," I overheard Mom say to Dad. "See, she's taking the high road." "Sure, Mom. The high road." I offered to help with the wedding planning. I told Chloe I still wanted her to be happy, that she deserved it. Her guard went down almost instantly. She started sending me updates, asking for advice, even letting me handle some of the logistics. That's when the real fun began. First, I took control of the playlist. They wanted elegant, romantic music. I gave them that, but with a twist. I replaced half the tracks with songs that subtly mirrored betrayal and lies. Nothing too obvious, just enough for the lyrics to sting once you listened closely. Then came the seating chart. Oh, I made sure that the most judgmental relatives, the ones who thrived on gossip, sat right next to each other. I even placed a few of Chloe's old flings near the front, right where Ethan could see them. But the real masterpiece was the video montage. Chloe had asked me to create a slideshow of their love story, so I did. Only, I included a few extra clips. I spent 2 weeks collecting evidence, old texts, voicemails, and secret photos Chloe had forgotten existed. Remember that time she cheated on her college boyfriend? I had proof. Remember Ethan's shady business deal he never told her about? Screenshots. I blended them perfectly into the video, hidden between pictures of sunsets and candlelit dinners. It looked normal until about 3 minutes in, when everything turned into chaos. And to make sure it played, I arranged with the AV technician myself. "Play it exactly as it is," I told him sweetly. "Don't preview it, it's a surprise," he smiled. "Got it." Oh, he had no idea. The day of the wedding arrived. It was sunny, perfect, disgustingly beautiful, the kind of day I once dreamed about for myself. I wore a soft pink dress, simple but elegant. Everyone smiled at me, whispering things like, "She's so strong," and "What a forgiving soul." If only they knew. As the ceremony began, I stood quietly among the guests, watching Chloe glide down the aisle in my wedding gown. Ethan looked smug, like he'd won. They said their vows. The crowd clapped. Champagne popped. Then came the moment Chloe had been waiting for, the surprise video. The lights dimmed. The projector flickered. At first it was normal. Their engagement photos, vacation selfies, cheesy captions like "Forever starts today." And then, the music shifted. The screen flashed. First a text message, from Ethan to Chloe, dated months before my breakup. "Can't believe she's still buying the act." Then another, Chloe texting a friend. "Amber's too boring for him anyway. I'm just helping him move on faster." Gasps spread through the crowd. The slideshow continued, photos of Ethan with another woman, clips of Chloe bragging in a drunken voice memo about how she'd won. By the time it ended, the room was dead silent. Ethan's face was pale. Chloe was shaking, and I just stood there, smiling. For 5 full seconds after the last frame froze on the screen, no one moved. Forks hovered midair. Champagne fizz detached in the silence like static. Then the room erupted. An aunt gasped, "Oh my God," loud enough to count as a prayer. Someone knocked over a chair. The venue manager appeared at the back like a fire marshal assessing a blaze. Chloe stood in the middle of the room, white knuckles clamped around her bouquet, eyes shining with something between fury and fear. Ethan found his voice first. "This is fake," he blurted, pointing at the dark screen as if it could defend him. "Photoshop, out of context. It's..." "From your number," I said, softly enough that only the head table heard. His mouth opened and closed like a fish scooped onto a dock. Chloe whirled on me, veiled trembling. "You did this," she hissed. "You planned this." "You planned it," I said. "I just pressed play." Dad stood up slowly, as if outrunning dignity might break a hip. "Both of you, office, now." He had never raised his voice when it mattered. He conserved volume for moments like this. We were shepherded into a side room, usually reserved for bridal party photos. White walls, a mirrored console, a vase of peonies arranged like a pastel apology. Mom shut the door behind us and pressed her palms together as though invoking patience from a deity that had long since stopped taking our calls. "Explain," she said to Chloe, but her eyes slid to me. Chloe's voice cracked. "It's edited, Mom. She hates me. She's been pretending to help so she could humiliate us. I pulled a folder from my clutch. It was heavier than a prop. Paper has a way of making truth feel expensive. "Before you call anything edited," I said, "you should know I didn't make that montage alone. Your daughter asked me to gather your favorite moments. I gathered them. Some were just honest." I laid out printed screenshots, time-stamped texts, call logs, the drunken voice memo transcription where Chloe, giggling, told her friend, "I always get what I want. Amber will be fine. She's too nice to fight." Chloe lunged for the papers. Dad caught her wrist. "Enough." Mom turned on Ethan. "And the other woman?" He straightened, banker stiff. "A client. It looked worse than it was. Your shirt was inside out in 2 of those photos," I said. Silence. Then Dad exhaled, the kind of breath that wilts flowers. "When were you going to tell us?" he asked Chloe, brittle, bewildered. "Or were we all supposed to clap while this farce stood on stilts?" Chloe's lip trembled. "I'm the one who finally found love. I shouldn't be punished because Amber couldn't keep his attention." There it was. The slash meant to draw blood. I didn't flinch. "Love," I said, "doesn't require burglary. Ethan reached for damage control like a man patting his pockets for a lighter while the house burns. Let's just salvage the night. Apologize, say the video was a mistake, and Mom made a small, helpless noise. The guests. Dad rubbed his forehead. The cost. And that was my cue. I pulled a second envelope from my clutch. Speaking of cost, I said, and placed it on the table. You'll want to review the vendor ledger. Final balance is due today. Chloe's head snapped up. You paid the deposits. I did, I said, when it was my wedding. Ethan scoffed. We transferred those contracts. You could tell which of us had read the fine print and which of us had relied on charm? Performed a verbal transfer, I corrected. The venue required written amendment by the original contracting party. Since no written amendment was executed, today's charges default to the names on the original agreement. Mom blinked. Which is, I smiled gently, mine. Chloe sagged with relief. And, I continued, as of 9 a.m., I filed cancellation notices for all standing charges under my name, effective at the end of the ceremony. The venue agreed to continue service if the new couple provided a valid card. They'll need that now. Ethan's jaw flexed. Fine. He reached for his wallet. Performative generosity loaded in the gesture. I waited. The venue manager knocked and stepped in with a tact that should be taught in diplomacy school. Mr. Carter? He asked Ethan, professional smile lacquered in place. We'll need a new card on file for reception service, AV, and late-night extension. Ethan handed over a platinum rectangle. The manager swiped it in the little machine he'd brought like an executioner with a portable guillotine. The device beeped and spat a receipt. Declined. He tried another. Declined. A third. Call issuer. The manager's smile didn't crack, but sympathy tucked into its corners. We can hold service for 15 minutes, he said, glancing at me. And then we'll need to convert to minimal staff until resolved. Chloe turned a slow, horrified circle, bridal beauty wilting into something too human for cameras. Ethan, fix it. I will, he snapped, already dialing. But I could see the math breaking behind his eyes like chalk washed by rain. Why isn't this going through? Mom whispered. I answered before he could spin. Because Ethan's revolving line isn't revolving. He glared at me. You don't know my finances. You falsified proof of funds on your last business loan, I said pleasantly. You used a short-term bridge deposit to fake liquidity, then moved it back 48 hours later. The underwriter didn't catch the velocity, but your issuer did. Everyone stared at me. I let the surprise sit. How do you... Ethan began. Because you told Chloe, I said. In a voicemail you forgot to delete. Chloe went gray. You recorded... Chloe, Mom said, voice suddenly sharp with a rare and unfamiliar steel. Did you know? Chloe backed toward the mirror as if it could provide a second version of her who hadn't. He said it was normal. He said everybody does it. Dad sank into a chair, years falling over him like sand. We raised you better than this. She flared. No, you raised me to smile and make things pretty while you ignored everything inconvenient. No one contradicted her. The manager coughed delicately. 10 minutes. They stared at him like he was a translator for reality. He left, closing the door softly as you'd shut a nursery. I laid a third package on the table, tied with twine. Here's a list of vendors willing to switch to COD today if you'd like to salvage a scaled reception, I said. Cash only. The DJ will stay for 1 hour. After that, you have a Bluetooth speaker and excellent acoustics. Dad's eyes glistened. Why are you helping us? Because our guests didn't deserve to watch a relationship die and eat dry chicken, I said. And because spite alone gets sloppy. I like clean lines. Ethan was still on hold, the tinny loop of corporate goodwill undercutting the panic. He ended the call and stared at me. This is sociopathic. Truth is not cruelty, I said. It's just light. Chloe's bouquet slid from her grip and thumped onto the console. She looked at me with a kind of exhausted hatred that had the shape of grief around its edges. What do you want, Amber? To watch me crawl? I wanted an apology, I said. I wanted my family to say my pain mattered. Barring that, I wanted you both to feel something proportional to what you inflicted. You've made your point, Mom said, voice hoarse. Please, don't destroy us. I thought of the Tuesday afternoon marinara scent, my mother's bored sigh, my father's newspaper raised like a shield between him and the inconvenient daughter. I thought of how quickly love becomes a spectator sport when the injured party is quiet. I don't need to destroy you, I said. You did that work yourselves. I opened the door. Now go tell your guests the bar is temporarily cash only. We returned to the ballroom as if surfacing from a trench. The murmur rose and fell as rumors propagated like gossiping algae. I took the mic before anyone else could. Hi, everyone, I said, steady, a polite hostess borrowed from a parallel universe. The slideshow ran some unexpected content. A titter, nervous. The happy couple needs a moment. While they sort out the bar tab, please find your seats. Dinner service will resume shortly in a slightly simplified format. I stepped down to a ripple of disbelieving laughter. Laughter makes a cleaner incision than screams. An uncle I hadn't seen in years stopped me. Never thought I'd say this, he murmured, but that was surgical. Clean lines, I repeated and kept moving. At the head table, a man in a navy suit detached himself from a cluster of executives and intercepted Ethan. I recognized him from business articles. Vince Harper, angel investor turned minor celebrity. Apparently, Chloe's perfect guest list had included the one person Ethan most hoped to impress. Vince smiled without warmth. I liked your deck, he said, sliding a card into Ethan's jacket pocket. Hated the bank statements. His eyes flicked to me. Whoever did your due diligence, he told Ethan, works for her now. Ethan went very still. He understood then that the damage had moved from social to structural. Chloe, caged in lace and expectation, began to cry. The mascara tracked elegant, symmetrical failure down her cheeks. Mom fussed with a napkin and made the soft, clucking noises she used on burns and bee stings. Dad stared at the tablecloth like it contained a map out of this. I raised my glass. Not a toast, a calibration. To truth, I whispered to myself and drank. At the far end of the room, the DJ leaned into his mic. We're back in 10, he said. Until then, enjoy some classics. The speakers offered the opening bars of a song I'd placed fourth on the list. A syrupy ballad whose chorus, if you listened, was a thesis on promises you shouldn't make when you're bad at keeping them. People swayed. People whispered. People forgot they were watching a war because the lighting was flattering. I stood near the doors and watched it all, the bouquet of consequences finally in bloom, a tap on my shoulder. Dad. I was wrong, he said. No preamble, no newspaper to hide behind. About all of it. I waited. He swallowed. You deserved better than what we gave you. It landed like a stone in a lake, heavy, then widening concentric circles of release. Not forgiveness, not yet, but water moving again where it had been still. Thank you, I said. It was both more and less than I wanted. He nodded at the room. Is there more? There's always more, I said, but not all of it needs an audience. He studied my face, searching for the daughter he'd misfiled as durable. Don't become them, he said quietly. I'm trying not to, I said. That's why I kept the truth on the screen and the malice off it. The venue manager approached again, clipboard like a shield. We'll need a decision. Chloe and Ethan huddled with my mother, doing math out loud like students who'd skipped the chapter on interest. I stepped back to the mic. Quick update, I said cheerfully. Reception will continue in the garden with a simplified menu. Sliders, salad, and a very pretty cake. The open bar will convert to cash. And because love is complicated but songs are simple, the dance floor opens. Now. A cheer. Human nature chooses party over postmortem whenever possible. Bodies drifted outside toward string lights, and a sky kindly pretending to be endless. Ethan brushed past me, voice low and acid. I'll ruin you for this. You already tried, I said. Turns out I don't ruin that easily. Chloe stood alone for a moment. Veil snagged on a chair, a butterfly trapped in bridal netting. She looked at me with something like plea. Do you hate me? I could have said yes. I could have listed the ways. I don't, I said. I just don't know you anymore. Her mouth trembled. What happens now? Now? I said. You face the music you picked. I left her there, not as punishment, but as perimeter. Some lessons bloom only in the quiet after the crowd moves on. Outside, the garden glowed. Guests laughed too loudly, danced too quickly, ate with the appetite of people grateful for any story that isn't theirs. The night resumed its shape, dented but standing. I watched from the edge of the dance floor, a careful witness to my own restraint. This was the part of revenge no one posts online, when the spectacle ends and the real work begins. Money, consequences, apologies, the mountain of afters. I took a breath that tasted like clean air after rain. There was one last thing to do. I texted the AV tech. One more file, play on my cue. Because if truth is light, then closure is the switch you flip yourself. The garden glowed beneath hundreds of fairy lights. It looked perfect, too perfect, like a scene that refused to acknowledge the disaster that had just unfolded inside. The guests needed a distraction, and I gave them one. The music rose, people danced, and for a while, it looked like the chaos had settled into awkward celebration. But I wasn't done. I stood by the old oak tree, the cool breeze brushing my hair back as I watched Chloe and Ethan pretending, laughing too loudly, clinging to each other like actors desperate to finish a scene. Their smiles were cracked porcelain, and every guest could see it. I glanced at my phone. The AV tech had replied. "Ready when you are." "Good." I took one last sip of champagne and walked toward the stage. The band paused, and I picked up the mic again. The same mic I'd used earlier to calm the crowd. My voice carried clearly through the speakers. "Before we end the night," I said sweetly, "the bride and groom prepared one final surprise for everyone. A message they wanted to share with the people who supported their love story." Ethan's head snapped toward me, panic in his eyes. Chloe mouthed, "What are you doing?" The screen flickered back to life. The first frame showed Chloe in her white gown, the same dress she'd fought me for, the same one I had custom-made for myself months ago. Then the video zoomed out. This wasn't the romantic slideshow from before. This was raw footage, security camera clips, text overlays, timestamps. The audience gasped as Ethan appeared on screen in his office, whispering into his phone, "I'll marry her if it means the money stays in the family." Then Chloe's voice followed, recorded from a phone call I'd intercepted weeks earlier when she called her best friend. "I'm not even in love with him. I just can't let Amber win. She gets everything. For once, I want what's hers." A collective murmur spread like wildfire. The footage cut to their apartment. Chloe scrolling through my old wedding plans, copying color schemes, floral arrangements, the very seating layout they'd used tonight. The final clip froze on Ethan's smirk as he said, "She's emotional. She'll get over it." Then the screen went black and a single line of white text appeared. Some people mistake silence for weakness. They only learn the difference when it's too late. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the projector cooling down. Then someone started clapping. Just one person at first, my cousin, bless her chaotic soul. But others joined in, slow, uncertain, until the applause rolled like thunder. It wasn't approval, it was awe. Ethan's face drained of color. He grabbed Chloe's arm and hissed, "You knew about this, didn't you?" She jerked free. "I didn't. I thought she deleted it." Their voices cut through the music, sharp and desperate. A photographer caught the moment, his instinct too strong to resist. And just like that, the image that would haunt them forever was born. The perfect couple unraveling under the lights, surrounded by applause that wasn't for them. Within minutes, guests started leaving. The gossip had already gone viral. I could see people whispering, texting, sending clips to friends who weren't there. Every phone in sight glowed with curiosity and disbelief. Ethan tried to regain control. "Everyone, listen. This is manipulation. She edited everything." But no one believed him. His voice cracked, his perfect reputation shattered in real time. Mom tried to stop me as I walked past her. "Amber, please, enough, you've made your point." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for once, she couldn't meet my eyes. "Did I?" I asked quietly. "Because when I was the one crying, you said I was overreacting. Now that they're crying, suddenly it's too much?" She opened her mouth, but no words came. "I'm not doing this out of spite," I said. "I'm doing it so no one ever calls betrayal love again." And then I walked away. The next day, social media exploded. Guests posted cryptic captions like, "You had to be there, and that wedding turned into a documentary." Clips of Ethan's face, Chloe's meltdown, and my closing line flooded every platform. Someone even synced the footage to dramatic violin music. Within 48 hours, Amber Whitfield trended on TikTok and Twitter. People didn't know the full story, and they didn't need to. The internet had already written it for me. Woman exposes cheating fiancé and sister during their own wedding. Ethan's company released a statement distancing themselves from him. Chloe quit her job after emotional distress. My parents stopped taking calls from reporters. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. Because revenge doesn't always mean destruction. Sometimes it means silence while the truth does the talking. 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name written in shaky handwriting. Inside was a short note from Chloe. "You've ruined me, but maybe I deserved it. I hope you're happy now." I read it twice, folded it neatly, and placed it in a box labeled closure. Then I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I finally understood something. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting people hurt you twice. It means walking away knowing they can't anymore. 6 months later, I launched a podcast called The High Road Isn't Always Paved. It was about betrayal, resilience, and rebuilding. The first episode told my story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. It blew up overnight. Messages poured in from people who'd lived the same nightmare: sisters, friends, spouses, co-workers, all betrayed by the people they trusted most. And every single one of them said the same thing. "Thank you for saying what we couldn't." That's when I realized revenge had given me closure, but purpose gave me peace. Soft music swells, hopeful piano mixed with quiet wind chimes. Looking back, I don't regret any of it. Because sometimes life doesn't give you justice. You have to build it yourself, piece by piece, frame by frame. Ethan taught me that love without respect is just possession. Chloe taught me that family doesn't always mean loyalty. And my parents taught me that silence can be as cruel as betrayal. But I taught myself how to rise. Now, when people ask if I'd do it all again, I tell them the truth. Maybe not the same way. But I'd still make sure the truth was seen. Because lies can only live in the dark, and I've learned to live in the light.